Hi, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Mackmyra online live
Hi,
tasting show. Hi, Gareth. Hi, Toby.
Hi.
Tonight, joining me on the Mackmyra tasting is Gareth Bell, my co-host, and Toby from Whisky Shed.
Hiya.
Hi, guys. Tonight, we're going to be doing a little bit of Mackmyra's core range. We're going to start with the Brooks, which is also known as the breakfast whiskey. It's an entry-level whiskey for us, and we've asked Toby to come along and share it with us. Toby, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, so I'm Toby, and I host a YouTube channel called Whisky Shared. I'm on all the major social platforms as well. And basically, I set up the channel just over a year ago after sort of having experience, very little experience with whiskey and wanting to share my journey of discovery along the way. So, once I'd got a little bit of confidence and I got to the point where, I thought I knew a little bit about whiskey, this sort of channel and hosting, my reviews and my tastings along the way was my way of sharing what I was doing and how I was learning about whiskey. And although I'd say I'm fairly experienced, I'm probably not. It's the thing where you learn all the time. So
It is.
Yeah,
we're all on a journey. Everyone's on a long journey. I'm even old enough to learn.
and we're all at different stages of our journey, and we've all tried different whiskies. So we've all got different experiences. So it's an interesting place to be right now.
Toby, how did you get into whiskey? I mean, it's not something you just sort of stumble into. Is it something that you kind of have a passion for? How did you come to get into whiskey?
Well, I definitely have a passion for it now, but no, I didn't. My 18-year-old son at the time.
Hang on. You've got an 18-year-old son.
No, I have
it's
a 20-year-old.
Jeez, now I feel old.
I have a 20-year-old son.
Okay.
He was 18 at the time.
Gotcha.
And he showed me a video by the famous YouTuber PewDiePie on Japanese whiskey.
Yeah.
And at first I was really surprised because I'd never heard of Japanese whiskey, so I was intrigued at that point. And my go-to drink, other than sort of whiskey and Coke, which just tastes like whiskey and Coke, it doesn't taste of anything particular, was brandy and cognac. So I didn't really have much knowledge on whiskey.
It's a good place to start, though, if you're drinking cognac.
Yeah, so
it's good brand.
Yeah, so Japanese whiskey piqued my interest. I thought, PewDiePie is making this drink sound amazing.
Yeah. And
I've never even heard of it, let alone tasted it. So I had a quick look on the internet, realized it was probably out of my price range for, just a bit of interest. But shortly after that, I saw some cheap on duty free, when I was abroad, and decided to take the plunge. And as it happened, I had Tesco's own blended whiskey to compare it against. And I've actually done a video of that, like a revisit.
Yeah.
And it is surprising how that whiskey is enough to make you think there is so much better whiskey out there than the stuff you find in supermarkets.
Yeah. Wow, so Tesco's is a stepping stone.
Yeah. So the fact that they were night and day, it instantly made me think I need to discover more, because not only was the Japanese whiskey I bought, quite tasty, it was nothing like this horrible, nasty whiskey that you'd normally put with Coke. So I thought, yeah, why not? I'll see what other whiskies are out there and what they taste like.
Yeah, okay. But this is you're talking 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah.
That's incredible, because everywhere I go, I run into you. If I go to the London Whisky Club, you're there. If I go to the Somerton Club, you're there. If I go to a whiskey show, you're there. So you certainly have kind of sort of bought into the whiskey world, haven't you?
Yeah, and obviously when you're, I wouldn't say I'm obsessive. My wife might say I am, but when you're learning about something new, what you have to do is you have to immerse yourself in it. And there's two ways you can learn about whiskey. One is by tasting it, and one is by talking to people that know a lot about it. So the fact that you get about means you can, try new whiskies. but also you can talk to people that have lots of knowledge. So that's a quick way to learn, because although the internet is good, it isn't enough on its own.
Correct.
No,
So
you've got to get there.
yeah,
And let me tell you, you know, I've been a whiskey fan for about 30 years. And you never let it go. once you're in, you know, you're hooked, and you're always learning. You're always finding out something, because there's always something interesting to taste and to move that journey forward. So everyone's on their own journey. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's always something new. You know, you just keep up with the market and what's happening in the marketplace. It's incredible. I mean, just look at your back shelf. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, you found some great whiskies there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for the support.
but obviously, you know, for me, it's an interesting journey, because I think you have to take one step forward and then 2 steps back, because at the moment, because whiskey is in such a explosion, there's so much variety out there. There's so much, and yet you can push yourself too quickly into uncharted territory. And there's lots of standard sort of, you know, core range whiskies from most of the major brands that you have to try before you can expand your palate and be, you know, a proper sort of well, no, I don't like the word whiskey aficionado, but you know, an experienced whiskey drinker. You have to know the different brands and the flavors and their profiles. You can't just jump in and say, you know, oh, I only drink single cask this and that, because there is so much more out there. Correct. And even if it isn't the best stuff in the world, you still need to try it and say, actually, I know that isn't the best, not just because somebody said it wasn't.
I mean, if you look at our portfolio, we've got 17 different whiskies, and they're all single malts, you know, and they all vary. So, you know, you're quite right in what you say. You've got to kind of find the base and work through it and get an understanding of what's happening with the brand, you know.
Yeah.
Even as a long-term collector, there are still many whiskies that I've never tasted. And, you know, there is just so much out there. You can't buy everything. So, you know, it's great that you have whiskey communities where you can share samples and, you know, still get a feeling for what these whiskies are without having to break the bank and buy every bottle of whiskey on the shelf out there, you know, because there are hundreds and hundreds, as you say, out there at any one time, and all the historic back catalogue. So there's a lot to shoot at.
So,
carry on. I was going to say, being a member of the London Whisky Club, that's one of the main benefits I find is, you know, not everybody can just go and buy a £50 bottle of whiskey or a £100 bottle of whiskey or a £150 bottle of whiskey. So if you can split that between, you know, half a dozen or a dozen or even more people, everybody can try something, and yet they haven't had to put lots of money in you know, out of their pocket to try something new. So it's a really good way of doing it. And, you know, if you had to buy a bottle of everything you wanted to try, you wouldn't be able to try that much.
No.
And it does get costly. Toby, what is Whisky Shared? How does it work? I mean, you know, you obviously got a bit of a following. How did it all get started? I mean, it's quite an interesting story.
Yeah, so Whisky Shared started basically being a member of the Somerton Club, which I know several of the people that follow me on YouTube are.
Can I just stop you?
Yeah, if you want.
Are you going to go to your show at the end of the month?
Yes, I'm going to the virtual whiskey event at the end of the month. Obviously, it was going to be a physical event, but it isn't anymore. I went to it last year as well.
That's right. That's where I met you last year.
Yeah, it's a great way to try new brands and meet new people.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Sorry to interrupt you. Carry on. So
being a member of the Somerton Club, I got a message from Dan, the founder, saying, you know, does anybody want to produce a video of unboxing their latest delivery when they get it? You know, to sort of the surprise on your face or your instant reactions. So I did that, and you know, I thought, you know, when he asked, well, can you actually have a sip of the next one we send you and let us know your instant reactions as to whether or not you like it, I sort of thought, yeah, I think I can do that. And then it sort of went from there. I sort of had seen other YouTube channels, people tasting whiskies and trying new stuff, and I sort of thought, well, if I can do that as almost like a record of my journey of discovery, you know, so it's more for me than it is for other people.
That's right.
If somebody else finds it useful, then it's a bonus.
It's quite interesting that I remember that video. I remember you watching it and sitting there watching it thinking, hell, this is really good. You know, it was quite exciting because it was sort of when Dan was kind of starting to use our products as his monthly bottle of whiskey, which, you know, he's continued to do over the years. And it was nice to see somebody different coming along and showing us what he thought of it the moment he tried the bottle of whiskey. So, yeah, I remember that very well.
And I think sometimes getting your instant reaction, having not tasted it before, you're sharing it live, you know, as you taste it, you're going to give a completely different reaction to if you sat there for an hour or two, sipping slowly and sort of letting it breathe and taking your time. So it's that instant reaction. And sometimes that's all you need when, you know, purchasing a bottle of whiskey is, I've only got a couple of sips maybe. Am I going to buy it? Well, you've already bought it. And that's enough to say, yeah, those few sips are going to make or break whether or not you are going to enjoy the rest of that bottle.
Yeah.
So, it's an interesting take on trying whiskey when you've never tasted it before, because there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide, and you've got to be honest, and you've got to say what you smell. You've got to say what you taste. I haven't had one of those yet, but it is interesting because obviously you've got a small amount of time to record that and be, you know, honest and give your thoughts, and you've got to try and pick up those flavors very quickly. And obviously I'm still developing my nose and my palate at the same time, and sometimes you smell something or you taste something, you think I know what that is, but I've got to try and, you know, verbalize that very quickly, because somebody will be watching that and they don't want to wait for me to come back in 15 minutes and say, oh, I know what that was.
Mickey Plumbers just asked, why don't you like the word aficionado?
It's not that I don't like the word, it's just that I don't think I could call myself that. So I'm trying to avoid calling myself that, because I couldn't say that I'm an aficionado.
Fair play.
So maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Just thinking back on that bottle before we go on, do you remember what bottle it was?
I think it was the Moment Caribbean.
Yeah, I think it was as well. It was end of
year last
year.
I think the first bottle I got was the Griv Gold.
That's right. That's the very first one.
Yeah, and that I only did an unboxing of.
And then it was the Skogs Hullen, and then I think it was the Caribbean.
No, it was Caribbean before the Skogs
Hullen.
Yeah.
Interesting, eh?
The Caribbean is my favourite.
Really?
Of the Moment bottles I've received.
Don't get him started.
I'm a big rum fan, Toby. So rum is a heavy influence as well on a lot of spirits. I started my rum journey 2-3 years ago, but whiskey's still my love.
Yeah, well, I recently did a comparison on 3 rum whiskies. One was the Caribbean, one was the Balvenie 14 Caribbean cask. Yeah, and I also did the Pike Creek 10-year-old rum finish, and they are all night and day. They're so different. Yeah. And the Caribbean won it for me out of those 3.
Oh, that's good to hear.
One just tasted like rum, one didn't have enough influence, and the Caribbean was perfect.
Well, as usual, Angela's about getting that balance between the ingredients, and just about every expression I've learned, whatever she's trying to do, she gets a balance between them. It's not in your face and it's not missing. It's kind of, it just works in the balance. That's kind of where I found she really gets that.
I think it also depends on what you're trying to give the consumer. If you're trying to give the consumer something that can easily be identified as rum, then that's fine. But if you're only trying to enhance the flavour by putting it in a rum barrel, then as long as the consumer knows this isn't supposed to, you know, be punchy and have a real rum flavour, then you're not going to be disappointed. But if you're expecting a rum flavour and you don't get it, then, you know, that's a bit disappointing for me. But the Caribbean's perfect. It's spot on.
Go on. Sorry.
It's joy of being live. I find every time she brings out a new release, I kind of, I lean towards that because it's something new, something different. And the next one comes along, and then I move on with my taste profile, And Caribbean came out, and well, like you said, it's kind of just, it was something that was different, but it just resonated with me, and I just really enjoyed it from the first time I tasted it. It was just lovely.
Yeah, and obviously being a part of the moment range, it's limited. So you can't drink that quickly because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
So you savor that a bit more than you would others because it is limited.
Yeah.
And we don't make them again. So once we've made it, we don't repeat it. It's done.
And even if you did, it wouldn't necessarily taste exactly the same.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Sure, Gareth, tell us what people can get if they were to purchase something tonight. Are we doing anything special?
Well, we always do something special, don't we? We always pull something out of the hat for them. Well, this week, it's Brukswhisky week. So we're obviously trying to push that a little bit. But next week, we're doing our famous standard, the Mac. Have yourself a Big Mac, a Little Mac, whatever Mac you like. But if you buy both of those whiskies, the Mac and the Brooks, on the website, you'll get a whopping 20% off as a little double deal. So that's our deal for the night. So I also like to endorse the comment from New Dram Drinker. He said, what a handsome bunch of fellows on the screen tonight. So that's 2 compliments in a week, Shane, we've had.
I know. I'm not sure I'm involved in that, Gareth.
Maybe it's the 2 guys with a beard. Do you think that's right, Tony?
I know. I feel very left out. I must tell you both. Well, I suppose it's time for me to tell a little bit of history about Mackmyra. I'll keep it brief, Gareth and Toby. I won't bore people too much with it. But just so people who haven't heard the history know what goes on in Mackmyra. So Mackmyra has been around since 1999. Their first distillery was situated at the Mackmyra Brooks, Mackmyra being a little village, hence the name Mackmyra. And Mackmyra, direct translation, means bug or mosquito swamp, which is not ideal, but that's where the Brook distillery is, and hence the name Brooks, which Gareth will get onto in a little bit and tell you why it's called Brooks. So that was opened in 1999, which means we've been around just over 20 years. And in 2009, we moved the distillery from the Brooks to a little village 12 miles away and built a gravity-fed distillery. First one of its kind in the world, 35 meters high. And the Swedes, to keep the consistency, built a pipe and ran a pipe from the brook at Mackmyra Brook to the new distillery to keep consistency in water. 12 kilometers of piping just so we get the same water at the distillery, which is incredible. We only use the local ingredients, and everything we use is in 50 kilometer radius of the distillery. So, the wheat, the barley, not the wheat, the barley, the wood, the water, the yeast, all in a 50 kilometer radius of the distillery. And we've been in operation for over 20 years, and we do 17 different kinds of single malts and 2 gins. So we moved the production from the old distillery in 2009. We began development of the new distillery. 2012, we moved the whole operation across to Gravity Distillery. And then we left the old distillery closed for a few years. And 2 years ago, we reopened the old distillery, and that's where we make gin today. So not only do we make whiskey, we also make 2 very good gins. But enough about the history of Mackmyra. Let's have Gareth tell us a little bit about the bottle story. I see we've lost Gareth, Toby. Is there something I said? These things happen, it's live TV. And I can start if you'd like. So the Brooks bottle, I'll start with the bottle, with the shape of it. The bottle is pretty much the same throughout the range. Comes in a gift box. It has the logo top and bottom. When Matt comes back, there's the logo top and bottom. Do you know what that is, Toby?
No.
Any ideas if you look at it?
I don't know. It sort of looks like a person.
It does, doesn't it? A bit, or a pot or a glass. It's in fact, it's a tie that we use on the side of the building. In the old buildings, they used to use struts. They used to pull the building together, and they used to tie at the end of it. In the UK, we have a lot of X's on the side of the building.
We do,
yeah. This is an actual. They actually put it through and then tied it, and that's the actual tie. So that became the logo. So the village is what we named the whiskey after, Mackmyra, and the logo came off the side of the building. of the first distillery building.
Well, I've learned something new.
Yeah, yeah. So this product was originally made in 2010. This is the first time they bottled this product. It looks very different to what it looks now. The first bottle was very different. It didn't have all the insignia on it and all the logos on it. It was just a basic elementary entry-level bottle with Bruks. Bruks means useful tool. It also means industrial area.
Okay.
So Mackmyra Bruks is the industrial part of Mackmyra. A lot of steel works in places like it are called Bruks. It's also used, direct translation is an everyday useful thing. So it could be translated into an everyday useful tool or an everyday useful drinking whiskey. Hi, Gareth, you're back. Are you back?
I can't hear you. Wait a minute. It's all
Okay.
live.
Yes, he's gone again. The initial distillery, which was an old mill distillery in 1887, was converted into what we used as our first distillery. And that's where the old trains used to pass by and used to store all their milled wheat and barley, and we converted it into our first distillery. There's a lot of history on this bottle. Gareth, do you want to carry on, or shall I? Oh, he's not there. Everything that we've done at the distillery is on the bottle. There are a few things, and I'm going to just start randomly. Jim Murray gave us a 95.9.5 score.
Hello?
Oh, he's here. Are you there? Gareth? We can hear you. He can't hear us. The new distillery, the gravity-fed distillery, is on the bottle as well. The recipe for Bruks is actually on the bottle. Angela actually put it on the bottle, which is quite interesting. The very first pot still we used, which is a 100-liter pot still, and this is quite important because if you have 100 liters coming out of a pot still, you're only going to get 30 liters out. Well, there's a better picture of it. And the 30 liters is synonymous with what we kind of do nowadays. We have 30-liter casks, which are a bread and butter for the distillery. We sell over 22,000 30-liter casks around the world. You'll also see a man carrying a cask, which is quite prevalent in terms of the cask industry that we use. There's the barley on it. There's the initial smoke stacker that we handmade and built when we were testing the smoke in preparation for making peated whiskey. The recipes on it, as I said. Initially, Toby, there was a set of skis on the bottle. And in Sweden, hi, Gareth. In Sweden, you're not allowed to market alcohol in any form, shape, or size. And we had a set of skis on the actual label, and the government asked us to take it off. So all the first bottles that were printed had these skis on it. So
why did they ask you to take
you can hear me, but I don't think I can hear you. It's all gone quiet. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear you, so I'm going to have to try and get these headphones fixed. I'm sorry. Take me offline and carry on. Sorry, guys. Live shows.
Just take them off, Gareth. So we had the skis on here, and what they said was they don't want to associate sport with whiskey.
Oh, right. So alcohol and sport, yeah.
So we had to stick a sticker over it. So we had to move the sticker to cover the skis. So if you find a bottle, so one of the earlier releases, so before we changed the bottle, before we got rid of the skis, it'd probably become a collector's item.
So was that domestic and international you had to cover it?
Correct.
Right.
So they're not on here on this bottle, you won't see it. But on some of the earlier bottles, if you look behind the label, you can actually see the set of skis. And yeah, we had to cover it with the label. So quite an interesting story. So if you find one, buy it. So yeah, the pot still's on there. The whole history of Mackmyra is on there. You see that there's little midges on it. The Swedish oak that we use to make the 30-liter barrels is on there, stockpiled. The reason it's stockpiled is it takes 2 years for the Swedish oak to dry out before we can use it and make casks with it. The old distillery is on it. Yeah, there's a lot of history, and it's a great looking bottle. It's
I love the design.
Yeah,
I do love the design.
It really is lovely,
and the way it sort of carries over from the box to the bottle
is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's something about the dimples on
Yeah.
the
There
bottom
is.
of the bottle.
There is. There's something
Oh.
about the dimples.
But,
He's back.
but sorry guys,
I've really
mention,
no idea what happened there. I got the rug. I think the big hook came in and pulled me out there. I was about to speak, and Shane had to learn his lines. Well done, Shane. But I can talk about the dimples because I think I know
before you mention the story, I find them really useful for pouring the whiskey because you can put your fingers in them. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
It really is good. For such a big, heavy bottle, it works really well.
Well, the legend is, and this is the first bottle that came out with a box, and it's a designer bottle from the old distillery. I'm sure Shane's told you all about all this, but the 8 dimples are meant to represent the 8 thumbs of the 4 founding fathers who put the distillery together. Torvald likes to think his is the one right at the front, which is a story he told us the other day, which is quite funny. But yeah, it's one of those stories that the dimples on the front here represent, a throwback to the 8 guys that put it all together, sort of thing, So yeah, I think it's a great story, isn't it? Shane, how far did you get through? You sounded like you got through most of it.
Gareth. Sorry, man. I got through most of it. It's been one of those shows. You disappeared. The pictures weren't great, so I thank goodness Toby kind of saved the day.
Have we started drinking it yet? So, that's the important thing. Are we drinking it?
No. So I was just about to hand over to Toby and say, Toby, it's great looking in the bottle. Can we please get you to introduce it and tell us what you pick up on it? Over to you.
Of course, because obviously, I think as brand ambassadors, the drink inside out, and it's almost conditioned that you can just rattle it off in your sleep. But obviously, it's great that you've asked me to lead this tasting, because obviously what I pick up isn't, predefined by your tasting notes. So that's really good that you've let me lead this.
Thank you.
So I'd say it's actually quite pale in colour. It's probably like a pale gold. It actually looks darker in the bottle than it does when you actually decant it into the glass.
Spot on, yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite deceptive at first, because the bottle definitely, the way the light obviously doesn't go through the liquid as well, it obviously does look darker, but it is quite a pale liquid. How old did you say it was?
On average, about 8 years old.
Yeah, so it's a decent age single malt.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think you said it's been aged in a variety of different casks, including bourbon, Swedish oak, Oloroso. So it's been in lots of different casks. So
all big casks.
Yeah, so it's had lots of potential to get lots of interesting flavours.
Correct.
But should we start off with the nose?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So instantly, I get a really sweet sort of cereal nose, but underneath that, when you first pour it into the glass, I get banana bread.
It's evident, isn't it? It kind of screams you. The moment you pick it up, hi, Dave. Dave from Boutique Whiskies here, another legend in the industry. Hello, Dave. Welcome.
I'm catching up on his beard, Dave. I'm catching up. It's about 2 foot long now.
You're so right, Toby. The first time I smelled this, I just got bananas, but I believe since I've told you, I've kind of
once it's been in the glass for a little while, that does dissipate, but it is that instant hit when obviously the alcohol vapors at its strongest. That sort of banana cake, banana bread is really pungent, and it's a lovely smell. And I think that it's more cakey than banana for me.
Yeah.
And I do like that. But there's lots of vanilla. It's lots of lovely sweet vanilla going on. But one thing I get, the
heavy bourbon influence. I mean, we pick our casks from the top casks from the Jack Daniel's distillery and heavy toast, and we do some new make from their suppliers as well. So we do get some really high quality bourbon casks, and I think that's really probably the source of the vanilla that's coming from there.
Yeah, it's lovely, that vanilla sweetness. But also, I get orchard fruits, maybe sort of green apples.
Yeah.
On the nose. I don't know if you get that as well.
Yeah, very much so.
But underneath all that, you can pick up the sort of slightly tannic sherry notes. That's definitely present on the nose.
The sweetness.
Yeah. Dry.
Yeah, it's not very dry at all, but there is that sort of
sweet
that red, like red grape sort of that slightly tannic note.
You don't get much spirit on it because it's only 41.4 in terms of ABV.
No, there's definitely not much alcohol vapor at all. It's really, really good.
Here's a little secret.
Okay.
Not many people know is that
they will now.
The game's up.
We have a little bit of peat in here as well, just to add a bit of spiciness to it, which adds a different complexity to it as well.
So is that
just a little smoke?
So a small amount of the vatted single malt that you put together has been in a peated cask, or it's peated barley?
Well, it's a peated barley, and the spirit's been put into the cask, and then a small amount of that has been put into the blend.
Right. Okay.
But from a 30-litre cask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Small. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So let's go on to the palate. So instantly, what I get is lots of sweet cereal, lots of that malted barley. It really is on the forefront. But there is lots of that sweet vanilla. There's also those orchard fruits. They're still quite present. The sort of juicy green apples.
Butterscotch.
But yeah, I get more. Yeah, definitely along those lines. So I get like a licorice or an aniseed. That's in there, and that's really nice on this.
I'm getting that in the finish. I'm getting like you said, a little aniseed sort of a kick at the back of the licorice towards the end in finish, and it's actually got quite a long finish. It's still hanging around for quite a while.
But that sort of tingle is more like almost like a cinnamon taste for me. So it's not quite cinnamon. Yeah, it's not quite pepper. It's more has a sweetness to it. So it's more like a cinnamon or a baking spice. It's that sort of those sweet sort of baking flavors.
You know what's really good about this, Toby? It's such a lovely entry point for people wanting to get into whiskey because it's not high in ABV. It's soft on the palate. It's easy drinking. It'll mix well with anything. It's light. You can drink it neat. It's just, for me, in the range of Mackmyra, it's such a lovely entry level.
It gives the illusion of... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I think because it has that nickname as the breakfast whiskey, it's a great starter whiskey for an evening as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to start your palate off, start it with this, and then move on to more complex whiskies as your evening goes on.
Correct.
I was going to say it has the illusion of a sweet whiskey, but it isn't sweet.
No.
It gives the taste. It gives the illusion of something sweet and aromatic on the tongue, but it's not a sweet whiskey. So it really sits on the palate nice.
And true to its name, Brooks, everyday useful, everyday useful whiskey. You could drink this every day.
Whiskey, yeah.
Every day.
It'd be great, wouldn't it? And it won't break the bank. I mean, it retails around the mid-40 mark, for an 8-year-old. It's lovely.
Yeah.
It really is lovely.
Superb.
Thank you, Toby. That was really interesting.
Did you mention the award, Shane? I mean, this has been awarded 2 or 3 times. It's been re-awarded. It was originally in Jim Murray's Bible a long time ago, and then it's been re-put in again this year, and 95.5. The recipe that Angela came up with is, a long time ago, and has been true to that recipe. Obviously, the exact whiskies are not the same, but she's putting that blend together and getting that flavor profile. And it's been very popular. We sell sheds of this out of Waitrose. It's like people just buy it off the shelf, and a lot of it, it's a very underrated and not underrated. I think just an underground whiskey, more or less. It's there. It's been there a long time.
I would say that people see it more as a craft whiskey.
Yeah.
So it isn't like your mainstream whiskies from Scotland and America and things like that. Because it is a lower volume whiskey, people see it as a craft whiskey, and I think the branding helps with that. So, and I think people obviously identify Sweden with sustainability and other things like that. So people see it as a quality product that isn't necessarily large volume. So I can see why people like this, and it's not overly expensive. It is a good, affordable whiskey.
Yeah. And you know what I find with our range being so extensive and having the 3 different segments, and people you meet for the first time, you kind of want to steer them to the moments and say, well, this is the pinnacle of what we do, and you sometimes forget about the Brooks. And then when they try it, they kind of say to you, well, why didn't we start here? Because this is just lovely, And
I think, obviously, core range whiskies are core range for a reason. Yeah. It's because they are very good quality, and they are things that people go back to again and again and again.
Correct.
So...
And it really screams everything that is Swedish, So fair play to Mackmyra on this. It's lovely. 41.4, 95.5. It's an 8-year-old. It's lovely. It really is good value for money. Toby, thank you very much for joining us. That was super. Gareth, before we close, maybe you can just remind the people what we are giving away if you can stay on the screen long enough.
No, I'm still here, just fooling around. Yeah, of course. I mean, Brooks is there. It's a great whiskey. We've got a little show tomorrow night dedicated to making a couple of fabulous cocktails with this as well. A bit of fun with that. But if you buy the Brooks and go with it, its other core stablemate, the Mac, which doesn't come in a fancy bottle, but if you get those 2 together, you'll get yourself 20% off that little bundle. So that's live on our shop, mackmyra.co.uk. For people out there, it's along the bottom, and I'm sure Camille, who's looking after all of our comments tonight on the screen, will put the link on for guys to be able to pick that up. But it's a decent bundle. I like it.
And am I right in thinking you get free delivery when you buy those two bottles?
That's right.
Yeah, anything over 50 is free.
Yeah.
Most places are £100 delivery, £50 at Mackmyra.
Exactly. Those 2 bottles for £60 delivered is amazing.
It's a no-brainer, really.
Yeah.
And then you get to watch next week's show and see us again. Also, you see me. Yeah. Not sure about Gareth.
Hopefully I'm going to be there.
And I have tried Mac. Mac is also quite an impressive whiskey for its price point.
It is.
It is. It's not about the packaging for the Mac. It's about what's inside. There's no fancy box. No fancy
I was really surprised.
What a whiskey.
Yeah.
Superb as a start whiskey. So much fruit. But anyway, that's next week's whiskey.
Yeah.
But 2 of them for the price of virtually 1 really good whiskey. It's not bad money.
It's not bad.
I just wanted to say while we're on there before we close up is if Boutique Dave, I wonder why everyone calls him Boutique Dave. If he wants a bottle of Mackmyra, let me know. No need to come on the show and be drinking Glenmorangie.
Yeah, although it's a decent whiskey, Glenmorangie. I think we've got to get you sorted out, Dave. He only lives in Bedford. He's only across the road from me. So, Dave, give us a shout. We'll get you sorted out, my friend.
Yeah. And thank you for everybody for joining tonight. Thank you to Camille. Thank you to Gareth. But a special thank you to Toby, who gave up this evening. And,
thanks for inviting me.
What a great evening. It's been lovely having you. Toby, if they wanted to know more about you or they wanted to find out more about Whisky Shared, where do they go? What do they do?
So I'm on, all the major social media platforms and YouTube as well. You can find me under /Whisky Shared on all of those platforms. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Pinterest. You name it. Twitter.
You're there.
I'm there. So and you can also find me on whiskyshared.com.
Fantastic. Well, guys, if I were you, I'd get on it. Toby does a great job.
It's going to be hard to avoid you, Toby, to be honest. It's going to be hard to avoid seeing you.
And I'll be at the Somerton Whisky Club.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
At the end of the month. So obviously, if you're on YouTube watching that, you'll probably be able to chat to me and tell me what you like or don't like about the whiskies on the day.
Yeah. And I must just tell everybody that is watching, tomorrow night we've got a very special show. We've got the guys from Paul John coming on as guests on our show, which should be great fun, Shilton and Craig. We always have a laugh with them. We're going to be doing our 2 whiskies. They're going to be doing their 2 whiskies. There's going to be a bit of a rivalry between us. So if you're around and you've got nothing to do tomorrow night, get in the armchair, switch on your laptop and watch. It should be really good fun. Yeah. We've got a few things happening next week. We've got a cast show happening next week as well, which is worth tuning into. I think it's Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll have to check. But where do they find out more about all this stuff, Gary?
It's on the Co-UK website. There's an events page, and they're all listed there. Not only the future events, but the past events. So if you're new to our site and you're just getting on on our channel. A lot of the previous shows are all listed there. You can catch up with some of the previous whiskies and tastings that we've done and some of the fun events that we've had. They're always worth a laugh, especially the cocktail shows, which are just a ball on a Friday night. For half an hour, we just have such fun.
Yeah, and they're really good cocktails as well. If you want to see a man smash a bottle of ice with a hammer.
That's what I was saying about never being too late to learn. Over the last sort of month or two, Camille, our sort of expert mixologist, he's taught me so much about using good ingredients in cocktails, which I never got before. I never would have considered putting a good whiskey in a cocktail. And it's like, wow, actually that kind of works. So you're never too old to learn new tricks, you know?
And he's mad. So just if you want to have fun and watch a really crazy show, it's worth watching tomorrow night at 5 o'clock. Guys, thank you very much. Gareth, thank you. Toby, thank you once again. Everybody out there, thanks to everybody joining us. From us here tonight until tomorrow or whenever we see you again, take care, look after yourselves, and thank you. Good night.
Skål.
Cheers.
Skål.
Skål.
Bye.